Alright, it is a minute before 11:30, so we are going to get started really soon here. And I have been working on some stuff before we get started here. I've been doing a little bit of cleanup of our project and processing things, doing work. So I'll start off today by kind of showing you what I've got so far. Okay, let's go ahead and enter full screen. We're going to be using Logic today for the most part. So, give me a moment to set up things. Okay, I need to go to the bathroom, so I'll be right back. What? Oh no, it's just me. What?
I don't hear anything going on.
Well, it's not a. I don't even have the DOS screen up. Yeah, I've got like an overlay that says starting soon. Let people trickle into the chat. The patient get out a little bit. Oh, so I maybe up on out.
Well, I got the rest.
Side. All right. Let's start streaming. Alrighty. Going to withhold show my camera for now because I am. Oh, well, going to withhold showing my camera because it is not on. I keep forgetting to. It's weird. Every time I restart my my streaming software, or restart my computer, the camera decides to not recognize it's connected. So I have to go back here, plug this back in, and give this a little restart, and we should be online here. There's some stuff happening with the Elgato as well. It's easy to fix, so let's see here. Activate. And you should see me shortly. Yep, that's correct. And got cereal, so I'm not going to show my face cam today. I don't want to show you all me eating. That's kind of nasty. So we're going to be looking at Logic today, for the most part. And yeah. I'm just gonna continue working here while I eat the cereal. Because I don't want it to get soggy. Well, Alright. Make the view a little bit cleaner. Close down everything. Unsolo everything. Okay. I'm not getting audio in, am I? I don't see levels. One sec. Oh, it's just off. Whoops. And I haven't gotten to this last section yet. But from here to here, I have been working on cleaning this up. So I'll go through this piece by piece now and show you what has happened so far. So I've been mostly processing all of this stuff in groups and just kind of bringing levels up, bringing the volume levels up of things that need to be brought up. Oh, hello, we have a viewer. Hi. And I'm just getting things in line here. So as before, we had put some effects on the guitar, so that's why it sounded drastically different in the beginning. What I'm gonna do, automate this. Ah, it's up here. Okay, I'll help with that transition. I just started work on this, so this is definitely not finalized. Let's look in the drums group because there's a lot going on there. Um, have I showed this yesterday? This topper part. Oh yeah, I adjusted yesterday. This was all about getting this this topper part to have some sort of reverb and some sort of effects. So all I did with this today is I just tuned down the Space Designer. So we're going to play this loop. And only that loop. Beforehand, it was somewhat like, oops, wrong reverb. I have 2 reverbs on this, because why not? It was about around here, so it sounded somewhat like this. And I decided that was way too long, so I kind of went in and just brought back that decay time of the reverb back to like about 170 milliseconds or so. So it's kind of a shorter like room effect, like more of like, you know, those that 80s gated reverb sort of thing. I'll might do some gated reverb in this, probably not. Yeah, we don't. Well, never mind. We won't really talk about this. Isn't exactly an example of gated reverb. It's just similar to it. It's just a really short reverb. We'll just compare it off and on here. So this is with that short reverb, and then without. So it just adds a lot more. It just makes the drums feel a lot bigger. And I like that effect with when you combine it with all the other drums too. It makes that hi-hat rhythm a little bit more obvious. And this continues. Considering doing more in terms of effects, I want to put some reverb on this topper as well. Why not? I could do that right now. Just gotta make sure that my volume isn't being automated. Okay. All right. I think I'm just gonna drag over a chroma verb from this track. Whoops. Oh, it's over here. Oh, that's fine. Okay, so I can have my mixer in a separate window. Alright, so I want to have this Space Designer, no, the chroma verb, because that's the one that's providing our washout sort of transition at the beginning here. And I want to put that on the second topper as well. So let's go ahead and use one of those different automation modes today, because instead of going through a menu and finding which parameter I need to automate, I already know where it is, but I'm just going to do it a different way just to show. So say I want to automate any parameter in any plugin, and you don't want to go through it, and let's say you have like 10 plugins on a track and you don't want to go through and find each parameter you want to automate from this long list. All you need to do is you need to go in and change your automation record settings. When it's on read, all it's doing is it's reading the automation that's on the track already, so all the information that's on there. Touch will make it so that when you change a knob, like for example, you put the attack up and that records in, if it's on touch mode, it's going to snap right back to this value. You'll also notice when I move the attack knob, when I move the size knob or density or whatever, those controls appear on the left, already there for you to start drawing in. So several ways you could use this. The way I like to do it is I don't like to actually record in the automation myself. I like to draw it in, but this is a good way of finding the parameters quickly. You just set it to touch, or latch. Latch, by the way, latch will unlike touch mode where you record. Let me just demonstrate this instead of explaining it to you. So let's go on touch mode and let's try to program in a let's program in the wet here. So we'll get it so we can see our automation or our track, and let's just press play. And oops, I need to see the other one. Let's just press play and start moving a knob. Okay. Yep. Just making sure this one's not being heard. Awesome. And you'll notice with touch, it goes right back down. It snaps right back to 11. So you get that curve that you created by moving the knob. It's recorded in, and then it snaps right back down to 11. A good way to clean this up, because there's not really a need for that many dots. So you can just drag one back at the end and make it a smooth line. But now you've got that in there, but you'd have to make sure afterwards that you set it back to read, or else you'll record in parameter changes that you might not want to. So on that note, let's actually put this in the right place. I'll show you latch real quick. So if we do the same thing, you'll notice that when oops, I think I brought up the wrong one. You'll notice that when I do automation now, when I do a parameter change now, first of all, it's overwriting what was there because the wet is latching at 16%, so it's holding that value. I'm not sure if touch does the same thing. Let me just quickly check. So if I'm on touch, yeah, it's not going to overwrite what was there. But if it's set to latch, then it's going to overwrite anything you had before. So you have to be very careful with these automation modes. But if we had it on latch, we could do stuff. Oh, it didn't that time. Interesting. All right. I don't know what that's all about. But you know what it is? I think it was because I had the control selected. Yeah, so when I could actually select the control, you can see that it overwrites it because I was holding it down. So if I were to move it up, you see now it holds at that new value. But if I were to put it on, again, if I were to put it on touch, you press play, record it in, and it snaps back up to 59. So, right is also a thing, but I think we'll skip over these last three modes for now, because they're used for more niche situations. We might end up using them if we have to, but I doubt it. Okay. So we've got it on our wet. We can just, on our wet control, we can just turn it back to read now. And where do I want to add this filter sweep in? I think we'll do it at the beginning where this loop comes in. So it'll start maybe at around 40% or 42%, and then it'll quickly die off and just become the beat itself. Right about there. I'm even going to curve this a little bit. I'll do a little reverb sweep going into this. You know what? Touch would be a nice way to do this. If I set my automation mode to touch, I can record in these sort of like transitional filter, or not filter, but reverb sweeps just myself. So let's do that. I could have done it a different way. I could have been like start at 0 and then just bring it up like that. I'll just kind of let it play out, and I'll do it again, and I'll do a longer one this time. Nice. Okay. Let's see how that sounds in context with other stuff, at least with the other drums. Be nice to have some sort of crash there. Oh, there is. There is, but it's hard to hear because of the reverb. Can I bring it back some? Let's bring this whole curve back, actually. This. I think the problem is that the crash on this topper track is just not powerful enough. I think we might actually reinforce that with another crash sample. So I'm going to create a new track. And it's going to put it right here. Let's put it above the toppers or below the toppers. And we're going to call this crash. And we'll look for a nice sample. No, that's not where I wanted to go. I want to go to my library. Or I could use one that's bundled with Logic too. I mean, that's the thing I could do, but I'm not going to do that. I have better crashes in here. Essential Deep House, sure. Symbols, crash. I actually like to not, like, something up here. That one. I really like that one. So we're going to use it. We are going to use it. We're going to turn it down because it's really loud. I'm going to put it in the mix. Nice. It would be perhaps beneficial to me to make a reverse version of this symbol and have it act as a sweep up into the actual symbol. Technique I like to do. Yeah, so let's do that really quick. We're going to create a copy of this. So option drag. By the way, that when I hold option, that's when I make drawings, so excuse that. That's just for demonstrating stuff like, oh, this goes to that, right? But yeah, no need to do any of that yet. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to reverse the file. I'd like to reverse this audio file. And the way you would do it in Logic is you'd open up the, you double click on the region, and then it brings up this view down below, which gives you a little bit more detail about that clip. So right here we have the track view. So this gives us our entire track and a little bit more zoomed in. We could set our own control scheme down here. So we could set automation fades and scissors and all that separate from the view up here, which is nice. But what I want to do is I'm going to go in here to File, and this is going to just give us this one audio sample. And we're working with the file itself, so let's say we had crashes elsewhere. It's still using, the same file. So notice that when I go to edit this, okay, I'm going to select all first. Okay? And then what we're going to do, I believe it is, okay, in functions, yes, right here, reverse. We got several things we can do with it. We can change the gain, fade in, fade out, silence, invert, which I'm curious about, trim, remove DC offset, which might be useful when you're recording guitars. Well, let's do reverse. But you'll notice that both of the clips reversed. That's because we were editing the file itself. All right, easy fix. All we got to do is drag the original file back in, and there we go. So now we have the forward version and the backward version. let me remove that file because okay, I need to close down automation. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep accidentally making volume dots on the automation line. I don't want that. So then we're going to move this reverse symbol right up to it, but I don't want to have it go all the way to the end because I still want the original symbol to have more of an impact when it reaches the next measure. It's just not going to sound as good as if I have it go all the way up. We'll just listen to it really quick and we'll make a comparison. So if I let it go all the way, and there's a little gap here, so that's going to sound kind of off. Yeah, I'm not feeling it. But if I were to take off that most intense part there at the end, so if I trimmed it off, and then I brought the clip forward, we should get a little better of a transition here. Perhaps even less, like maybe a measure less, or a quarter note less. Now how does it sound? Let's hear it with these clicks. All right, in the context of the rest of the drums now. Perhaps less than that even. Like this much. Yeah. And then at the end of this clip, I'm going to fade it out so that it doesn't stretch on for so long. There we go. So you can see that little white line on top of the clip that indicates where the fade is. If I draw another one, it makes it a little bit longer. By the way, I'm holding Command to do this because I've set my tool to the fade tool. That's how you do it in Logic. And there you go. You have a fade. Now let's hear what this crash sounds like. It shouldn't decay nearly as long, which is good. Fades out nicely and gets out of the way. I'll even extend it out a little bit. And I'm going to give a curve to the fade so it's less noticeable as like just kind of a linear drop off in volume. What we want to have instead is sort of a exponential or logarithmic drop off like this, so that it starts out cutting out slow and then quickly, well, perhaps the other way around, like this. Trying to figure out the ideal length here. And then what we can do is just take this whole segment and copy it over somewhere else, line up that middle portion, and there we go. We have an additional transition that leads us into our drop. Great. I might not actually have the crash, though, that happens in the downbeat there. Or we could have the crash there. I want to hear it with everything else. So let's see. Oh. It might help to have some panning. I just noticed that, okay, everything's just kind of in the center, all smushed together. It's hard to hear detail anywhere. So what I'm going to do, I'll keep this center. I'm going to pan this to the right, pan this to the left. So we hear this beat happening in our left ears, this beat happening somewhat in our right ears. Just to give them their own space. And then the crash, perhaps we can do a sort of panning action, just like this is doing. So that's just going to be a matter of automating the pan. Let's do that. So I'm going to click here. Pan's easy enough to find. I just have to go to main, pan, and absolute pan. And then I can turn this up to here, have it sweep across, reach the middle once the crash happens, and then continue going to the right. Let's hear how that sounds. Oops, it's muted. Can't hear it when it's muted. That's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. I'm going to make it curve a little. Okay, I need to select the... Oops. No, that was fine. Never mind. I didn't do anything. Curve. I'm going to make it sort of logarithmic, so it accelerates towards the middle and decelerates out. So it's going to sound... Oops, didn't want to move that. And it sort of eases out. Yeah, that's going to be nice. That's going to be nice. So then that's just a matter of getting this somewhere else is just a matter of selecting all of this. Copy. Paste. And make sure that 0 lines up exactly. There we go. We can keep this kind of still in the meantime. So we can remove this and this. Make sure these values are the same. There we go. Nice and clean looking. Now let's hear it. With everything else, of course. We're going to need to visit the volume levels of everything here. So let's just exclude the drums for a second. And let's mess with this balance. First thing is, our chords are not there at all. So let's make that happen. I think it's because I filtered the crap out of it. I gave it back some of those frequencies I cut out. I'm also going to put a filter on it so that I can get it out of the way and have the arpeggio come through better. So filter, auto filter. I'm going to make sure it's a low pass filter. I'm making it about 50% or so. I'm not going to mess with any of this other stuff. And we'll go latch just to find this parameter quickly. Tap the cutoff a little bit, move it around. Oops, I need to set it to... Oh, my bad. I should be doing it here because these effects are on the bus instead of the track itself. So touch, and there it appears, and that's all I needed to do. So we can now take this cutoff, add a point. Maybe here, this is going to affect it beforehand too, so maybe I'll start with it up all the way. Or not. Maybe you can have it start low as well. And then sort of filter in at measure 5. And then maybe 7. It can start going up to 100% and then go back down to 30. Let's try that. So, oops. I want to go back to the beginning here. Oh, right. I need to transition here instead. You know what it needs? I think it needs the pumping action. Yeah, this whole group doesn't have sidechaining yet. That's the problem. Let's go ahead and send it then to our soft sidechain bus. And I think it slams it way too much. So I'll turn back the volume of the chord. Even the individual track itself. And then I'll try to mix it in. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I kind of want the guitar to filter out there. Yeah, so let's go up to guitar. We don't even have a filter on it yet. Let's do that. Auto filter, stereo. Okay. Make sure it's an it's a low pass. And did I move something? I think I moved something. Oh yeah, I created automation here. I keep doing that. Okay. So, let's start this down at around 30%. I want to set this to touch so that I can get that parameter really quickly. And there we go. I have my cutoff. Let's turn it all the way up. Start it all the way up. And filter it out when we get to measure 25. So right about to down here. I want to do it only on the last measure. We'll have it curve exponentially down. So zoom like that. And maybe the last beat. You know, and then right there is when the guitar has to start coming back. So over the course of these two measures, it's going to come back up to 77, and then maybe here it'll come back up to full and then drop back out again. Oh no, it'll just stay up. It'll just stay up because the guitar is part of the drop. All right, give me one moment. I'm going to throw away my food here. So be right back, guys, and then I'm going to show my camera afterwards. Be right back, y'all. Okay. All right. Grab my coffee. And let's get back to this. Where should I put my camera? Bottom left? Top right? Top left? That's fine. Hello. Hello, y'all. I am here. And I'm finished with my cereal, so I can show my face now. Alrighty. So, where were we? We were putting a filter on the guitar slices so that we could make it work better in the mix in this interim section. Moving it out of the way so that the arpeggios can come through a little bit better and the chords can come through a little bit better. Let's work specifically now on the arpeggios. So let's open up this group. We're going to close down the chords group. Transition effects we'll worry about later. Guitar texture is another thing that I was filtering out because this is sort of like... Oh, I also put a little bit of LFO automation, LFO motion on it. So like... Logic's filter gives you the ability to... Okay, what did I just do? Oh, nothing. Gives you the ability to add an LFO into it. And then down here you see all the LFO controls. Low frequency oscillator, by the way, so that's what it stands for. You see here the rate and then the waveform. So I've chose a ramp up waveform. And it sounds something like this. Boing, 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 boing. That boing, 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 that kind of sound, that's caused by the LFO. It's also got its stereo phase set to 180. That means it's going to sweep up in the left ear, and then sweep up in the right ear, and then the left ear, and the right ear, left ear, right ear, etc., etc., etc. It's just going to keep alternating back and forth. That's what you're hearing here. if I were to up the LFO's intensity, ooh, and maybe set it on. Okay, it was being set back because I'm automating this parameter, but if I were to maybe turn that off for a second, boing, now I can much more easily hear it. But I have it set low because I take out the automation at the end so that a high pass filter can come sweep all the way up and get this thing all the way out like this, like that. Well, it doesn't go all the way out. Probably a mistake. It sweeps up quickly here during this last measure that leads us into the drop, right? Okay, so arpeggios. I'm unsure if this one needs work. It could use a little boost. Okay, first thing these could use, if anything, are a compressor and EQ for this particular one. So for this ARP right here. So let's go to measure 25 to 31 because that's the only place where just this arpeggio is playing. Gonna solo out everything else, or just solo this group, and we'll mess with some EQ settings. So I turned on EQ by clicking on this little box over here. Another way to do it would be to click up here on the top left. You see a couple options for this is like different windows you can have open. Over here, there's a couple tabs for what you have open in the right side, like your notepad, your loop browser. Oh gosh, I opened up the it's loading the loops, but your loop browser and then your media, right? Your personal files. And then on the top left here, you have buttons that show you your what's called smart controls. So when you have any plugins on this track, some sort of controls will show up here. Then you have your mixer window, which shows you all your plugins and all your tracks, just as this window does. This is a pop-out version of that. And then you have the scissor tool, which is like your file editing, your track editing that we did the reverse in. Just a little bit of interface stuff. So clicked over here, add an EQ, and as I was saying, another way you could do it is you could go into this this little view here, down here, and you could click EQ, and if there's not already, so like, let's say I'm starting from nothing here, if you select the EQ tab, it puts one on there for you. So now down here we have all our EQ controls conveniently available for us. It can probably even expand this out a little to see it a little better. And we can start to EQ it. Although I'm not seeing any I should be seeing audio show up here, which is kind of confusing. Ah, I know why. It's because I'm working on Cyberdux EQ, not morphing EQ. So I need to select this track first. Okay, click the insert an EQ. There we go. And we now see audio. Perfect. So, if we take a little snapshot here, we can see lots of stuff happening around 20 to maybe 200 hertz or so. This stuff we can't hear at all. I guarantee you cannot hear this little bit. This is just kind of like the thump or like the low end of that patch that's completely unnecessary and does nothing but what we call mud up the mix, because it adds low energy that you don't need and conflicts with possible basses or kick drums or whatever. Control your low end. So I'm going to do that by putting on our little high pass filter as one of the banks of the EQ, and then I just pull this up, and then we sweep out, we just scoop out all of those lows. And we'll bring it up. What we'll do, a technique you can use for this, is if you just turn on the track and then start dragging this up from the left to the right until you don't hear it anymore, and that's probably a good spot where you want to have the EQ. So Okay, I can sort of hear it, starting to sort of hear it have an effect there. You'll notice that all of this stuff was completely unnecessary to the sound. And now, because of that, because we've cleaned up this sound, other things will come through a little better. Trust me. Including the other arpeggio, which I'm sure has a lot of low energy of its own that we need to clean out. So let's take a look at that stuff. And you can already see, just from the little bit that I played, got a lot going on here. And it may be because, you know what I think I did, is I low-pass filtered this in from in Soundtrap. That's why it kind of eases in like that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of scooping out this the middle frequencies. I'm making the sound a little bit thinner because we've got other elements up here, like this guitar slices that is filling in our middle, our sort of 200 to 800 frequency range, or 800 hertz range. We've got a lot of energy on this guitar track, and we can take a look at this here if we throw an EQ on this. And if you look, and if we just listen to the guitar track on its own, the guitar slices track, mute these two, you'll notice around from 200 to 800, we've kind of got the most energy in our guitar. Also got some low-end stuff here that we don't need. But yeah, that guitar is kind of filling out that for us. And I'm even going to boost it a little bit. Just emphasize that kind of warmth down there. And we'll cut out everything above. Well, that's where our crackle is from our distortion, maybe not. Okay, so let's hear that with the arpeggios. Oh, another thing we can do is we can pan these. We can pan them to give them their own space give them their own spot in like the virtual space. I guess you could think of like a virtual stage in front of you. Yeah, it's just kind of a good way to describe pan. Imagine that this track is made up of a bunch of performers on stage in front of you. Pan is essentially arranging where they're positioned on the stage, and therefore hearing them more in your left or right ear, and then it gives you this sort of stereo sounding effect where it has dimension. Instead of like, if everything were panned to the center, you can imagine a band literally going in a single file line in the middle of the stage, one in front of the other. That's not going to work. That's not going to work, is it? First of all, they're going to fall off. Second of all, everyone's going to get in the way of the person behind them, therefore blocking the sound. And I would say it more or less works the same here, but it's kind of a good analogy to think of and why you should pan things. Why everything shouldn't just be in the middle of this knob here. So what we could do, a quick thing we could do right away to sort of give these distinguish them a little bit, is pan them. So what I'm going to do, though, I'm going to do it differently, because this one's playing alone here, and then the cyberduck comes in, so I'm going to automate the pan on this track. I need to go to main, pan, absolute. I could have just done latch and then move the pan around if I wanted. That's another way to get there. So I'll put a point at the beginning there, and then we will, as this, I don't need this point. In fact, I don't need that point there back there either. Okay, so as this one starts to fade in, I'm going to pan this one to the right, and then pan this one slowly as it comes in. Whoops, not volume. To the left. So we'll go 0 and then Right at the same point, we will go minus 26 or 27. Might even do a more hard pan. Okay, that should be a slower sweep because it doesn't come fully out of the low pass filter until maybe around here, right about there. So maybe let's delay this pan shift until the Cyber Duck really comes out. So we will leave it in the center, and then we will slowly shift the pan over the course of a measure and bring that like that. So hopefully we should get some cool variation there. Let's hear it. That would be a good place to do it, at the transition. That way we aren't having just this shift in the middle of the section. I think it would make more sense to have it going into measure 41. This comes out and that goes that way. So now and then I could start to pan back to the center for that transition moment. This has to be at 0. There we go. This one goes back down to 0 as well. Okay, fine. -4. Alright, we want to leave this one up at -28. And then we want to start to slowly bring it down. Alright, now let's hear it. Like everything sort of just comes towards the center for that transition. It'll sound better with other things, I hope. Let's put it in the transition effects too. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Alright. Let's go ahead and hop back a little and play through this, and then find something else that's particularly annoying about this mix. Okay, first of all, these are muted. They should not be. That one's fine. That's just the MIDI. That's if I want to add another layer onto those chords, which I probably don't. Okay, something that bothers me right away. I don't want the guitar to be that harsh immediately upon the start of the track. So let's try using this filter to start it at around 50% or so, and then kind of bring it up as we do the transition to the beat. Alright, let's start around 56 or so, and hopefully that sounds a little better. Yeah, sounds more like the beginning of a song. Also, this chord is unnecessarily tiny here, unnecessarily filtered. I think we'll bring these two points up to about 59% or so. Another thing I'd like to do here is I would like to send this to a reverb track. I'm going to use a new feature, or not a new feature, but a different feature in Logic. Oop, I apologize for that. That scared me a little. I'm going to put on a reverb effect, but I'm not going to do it directly in line in this track, because maybe I want to send other elements to reverb as well. Maybe I want certain things to reverb, but I want them to be sort of being put through the same plugin, so that they have the same, so that they share the same reverb and sound like they're in the same room. Room. Voice crack. 1 second. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. All right. Anyways, we were adding a what's known as a send. So we had already gone over the concept of buses and logic, and this uses the same concept. Sorry. Yeah, uses the same concept as before. Instead of sending the entire output to a bus, though, like the entire track, and then to stereo out, like this is, for example, this says bus 7, so it's going here. This is the input from bus 7, so it's going to soft sidechain. Anything going to bus 7 is going through a soft sidechain from that compressor. But what I'd like to do is add another bus dedicated to reverb. But it's going to be on a send, so I'm going to do bus 9. And then that's going to create an aux 9 track. And what we're going to do is rename this verb. Verb, I guess I'll call it verb return, because you're sending stuff, and this is, you're sending stuff to the verb, and the verb is returning you, this track is returning you the completed, or processed audio, I guess you could say. So, what have we created? We have created a new bus by clicking here, adding a send, and I just selected bus 9, and I named it verb return, so now I'll be able to tell where that is. And then next to it we have a little knob, and if we were to drag on this knob, we can determine a volume level that of which we want to send to that reverb track. So we can send maybe minus 17 dBs worth of that track. Keep in mind, it's not gonna subtract that amount of, like, it's not gonna subtract 21 dB or minus 21 dB from the overall output. It's going to sort of copy it and then send a another version of it down that bus. So you don't have to worry about turning up this thing all the way, but then that just commits the entire track to the verb return like a bus would, like just a direct bus connection would. But no, it's not like that. It's making a copy and then sending it down this this send chain, which goes to the return track, based on, and how much of it is based on this knob here. So maybe I'll send minus 12 dBs worth. I don't want too much reverb. And, well, we have to have a reverb on there, so let's do that. I think we'll do a space designer, a nice little impulse response sort of deal. I'll load a nice and simple one. Let's do a hall. Or I will do an indoor space, actually. Big bathroom, stage hall, high school gym, large pub. Let's try that one. So we're not going to hear anything quite yet. I just have to make sure that this track is soloed. The return track is soloed. And the chord group is soloed. So that would be here. All right. Great. If I were to unsolo this, I don't think we'll... I guess we do still hear the reverb send. What if I were to only solo? Now, if I only solo the cool thing is about a send track is you can isolate just the reverb section. You can, instead of moving a dry wet knob on a single track, you can have reverb from a lot of different sources go to one plugin, and then you can isolate that verb. So right now, all I'm hearing... Oh, and also, by the way, this has to be 100% wet, no dry. And we're hearing just that reverb tail. And then this means we get to tell what exactly this reverb sounds like, and we can go through and try different ones. Let's try a gymnasium. No, it's kind of more reflective. I don't know. Let's try large spaces, perhaps? Or maybe medium spaces. We'll do a gated reverb. Gated chamber B. Yeah, no. Well, let's hear it with the chords themselves. You know, with the chord itself, it's not too bad. Yeah, you know what? I think we'll keep that. I think that'll be our reverb send. So, there we go. So now the chords have some reverb, and we can adjust exactly how much reverb it has by just changing this send. So, if I wanted to add a lot of reverb, I could turn this way up. But now I could just kind of mix it in. Like that. That's the reverb alone. That's with the chords. Sounds pretty good. And we could do this with any effect that we want, including delay, which I might do as well. Which means I could do, like you see this guitar slices delay stuff here. The way I've done it right now is I put a different stereo delay on each track, but what I could have done is I could have created a send and then created two separate aux return tracks, one with one type of delay, one with another type of delay, and then I could just automate the level of the send to those different delay types. But specifically for these two, I have it like this so that because I don't want any of the original guitar being heard, I just want sort of the washout of the delay there, because that's kind of characteristic of that section. Of course, it's going to need some work, but you get the idea. I think what I might do... is this turned up? Yeah, that might be why. It's because everything else is 4... or this is -4. These are -12. That might help. Yeah. And these still need work, so we'll get there. Alrighty. Let's hop back for a second. Let's check out measure 9 again. Alright. I'm going to curve this up. Could use a symbol there. In any and all the other transition effects too. Oops. I meant to select and then option drag this over. Maybe less. We will get rid of this one for now. We just want the sweep up. And then maybe a crash to have some sort of impact there. Where is the crash I put in? Oh, it's all condensed in drums. I really should put this as part of transition effects. I don't know. Perhaps I'll move this move these transition effects up here next to the drums so that we can make more sense of it instead of going back and forth. So let's put that here. Okay, so now we have this SFX right beneath this crash. Makes more sense. And let's put in this as well. Yeah, that helps a lot. Another thing I like to do is filter in this arpeggio, because it just comes right out. It just starts right away, and that's no good. We need it to filter in, to ease in. So we'll put on a low pass, and let's find the parameter. I'm going to do it by just looking through the menus here. So, not pan. Well, I would like to add the automation lane for pan. So, let's do that. And let's add filter cutoff. Okay. And make a point. Let's move this here. Filter it down. I think I had it like this in Soundtrap as well. Okay, we'll start it about there. Filter it up to about 64%, and then bring it up over time to 100. Like that, perhaps, maybe. Okay. One thing I'm noticing right away is this crash track is just 10 times louder than all the other drums. These two need more prominence. This one needs a little help. Let's put a compressor on it. I think it needs a little bit more volume on it. It just needs a little bit more. Just needs to be up more. Let's compress this beat. I'll do it with a classic VCA, so it's a subtle effect. That's better. Ooh, I noticed this just cuts off here. Might not be the best. Let's actually filter it out instead. Perhaps we want to start it up at around like maybe 70 or something, or maybe 60. We'll go at around 60% cutoff, and then we're just gonna fade this guitar out as the arpeggios begin to fade in, or begin to take more of a hold in the mix. Just adding a couple more transition things here and there. I want to do something kind of tricky here where I take this kind of bass, growing bass transition sound, and I'm cutting off the end so that it doesn't get as far. This sound. I don't want it to reach the end quite yet. I want it to reach the end once we get to the... I want it to, yeah, that little sound there. I want that to just be avoided entirely. But what we've created here, you'll notice, you might be able to hear, there's kind of like a click at the end of this audio clip. So what I'd like to do is just simply add a fade, and that will take care of that problem. So there we go. So it's just like a hint of what's going to come, right? Doesn't go all the way up though yet. Yeah, that's better. This one needs to be heard better. Okay, the guitars are still filtered out. Something was missing. Yeah, this needs to just start all the way up. I'm thinking of ways I could hear this particular hit better, because it's like a pickup note, and it needs to be heard. That little thing there. Perhaps we could filter out the arpeggios? Okay, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this auto filter. It's on just this arpeggio, and I'm going to move it to the group of arpeggios. That way, it should carry the automation with it as well. That way, our filter sweep acts on both of our arpeggio tracks. That way we can filter sweep them both out at the end, so that that guitar pickup note can be better heard. You following? I hope so. Oh, it didn't save it. Darn. Oh well. I could just redraw it in. No biggie. So we're going to slowly filter sweep this up. Started at 60% or so. Start raising it once it gets to measure 33. Oh, I keep doing that. It could filter in even more. And then there, it can start to come out. Just a little. It's about around 52%. And then it's going to come all the way up. That guitar texture is going to come in. That should also filter sweep up there, just to kind of match the motion. All right, there we go. Oh yeah, the automation. Okay, I'll leave this around 50%. And I'll sweep it up at the end. Let me adjust this really quick. I'm gonna make a big cut out of the middle. Yeah, make it sound really thin. There we go. Okay. This probably should filter in from the top. Come down. And then fade in as well. Probably like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Maybe other things can be happening to this as well. Because, well, this is just a texture. And it leaves some room for some sort of creativity in that regard. I'm going to throw on a phaser. Because I like the sound of a phaser. And I could, talk about what it does. So, it's in our modulation category. That's where we found our tremolo, which sort of varies the volume in using an LFO to create to create a tremolo effect. You'll be able to hear it on the guitar. I'll go back to it in a second, but I'm gonna throw on a. Well, we have many options. I'm going to throw on a phaser, and you'll hear what you'll be able to hear what it does to the sound. You can go through some presets. It's kind of creates like a. I don't know how to describe it. Let's go through some other phasers. We'll go through the micro. Oh, not the flanger. Flanger's entirely different, or similar but different. Microphaser. Yeah, this one's pretty simple to understand. You have an LFO that controls the rate of that motion you hear. You have the intensity of it. So I'm going to pull this all the way up. Let me pull the feedback up too. Yeah. You really get a good idea of what it's doing. Let's sync it up to the beat. Let's do a 1/2, because that's kind of the motion of that filter also. And I'll emphasize that. And finally, let's automate the, we'll do maybe around 58 or 56% intensity. But I'll do 0 feedback. But I'm going to automate the feedback going into the next section. So we'll get this crazy sounding like laser effect. Like that. That's going to be cool. So, microphaser. And feedback. And then we will increase that feedback. And not only will we increase the feedback of it, we will increase the rate. But in order to do that, we're going to need to unsync it. That's fine. We'll just leave it around here. That's fine. I'll do a nice slow phase, at least to start out. And then we'll select the rate. It says LFO rate. I was right about it being an LFO. Okay. And then we're going to increase the speed of that LFO going into the transition. So we'll have the laser effect start to happen, and then it will also speed up as it goes into the drop here. So let's listen to what this sounds like. I think what we need to do is perhaps bring this back a little bit. And we need to not filter it out as fast. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, just reveal all of those real quick. Modulation can come out there. Filter sweep can come out there. And the feedback can increase a lot sooner and kind of have more of a flattened curve here. So let's see. Got to select my curve tool. I'm going to have this feedback increase faster. Yeah, and we'll get something like that. That's going to be really cool. I'll have an exponential curve that leads into that, just slightly. Yeah, and then that's going to happen. We'll cut off, or whoopsies. We'll turn that all off after the end of that section. So now, cool. Now, perhaps we make that happen differently. Maybe we make it accelerate more, like that. And come out sooner. Okay, let's try that. We'll move the cutoff of that. We'll move the filter back even more because I kind of want to hear that laser effect towards all the way up to the end of the measure. Nice. Last thing I'm going to do is move that EQ after the phaser, because what happened when I modulated that phase, or when I modulated that phaser, it started to create low frequencies that we had already cut out. So what I'm doing, I'll compare. I'll show you what's going on. So if I put another channel EQ here, and I were to look at this channel EQ, let's do it about here. You can hear nothing going on, but if we look at the bottom EQ, so this is after the phaser. So that was before the phaser, and this is after the phaser. Look at the frequencies we have created. See all this down here? Yeah, you can see a huge spike of low energy there. So to combat this, all I need to do is make sure that that EQ happens last, so that all of the effects happen, all the frequencies get created, and then the EQ comes in to cut it all out. So we should get a nice cleaner sounding transition now, because all that low stuff from the phaser is being removed. Yeah, maybe not. Okay, I'll pull it up some more, and perhaps we could even pull out the. All right, how about this? We'll ease out on the. Oh, the LFO rate is jumping down. Maybe we leave that up for a sec. Also want to make sure that this track cuts off immediately after it's done, so we don't get any decay from that. Don't get any extra stuff at the end here that we don't want. So I'm going to do that by automating the mute just for a second. Oops. Actually no, because then what if I want to mute the track later, it's going to unmute it through automation, so maybe not. Let's get a utility gain plugin. That way I can lower the volume of it by use of automation without affecting the main volume knob. This is how I like to automate volume, like getting a gain plugin on the track after everything is done. So this allows us to invert the phase and do other things, but I just want it for this knob right here, gain. And what we're going to do is just automate this immediately down at the end here. So let's grab that parameter. Okay, and then all I'm going to do is set it at 0 if it's not doing anything. Okay, if I could get it there. It's kind of tricky. Okay, got it. And let's immediately move this down afterwards. So let's zoom way in here. And I want to do a nice cutoff. So now we will be guaranteed to get some silence at measure 49. Now, I'm not sure if it honestly made a difference, but could even bring back this a little bit, this fade out. Now, you might be saying, hey, why didn't you just do a fade out on the clip? Thing is with that, that's just a fade out on that audio clip before all of the effects happen. In order to reduce the volume of it afterwards, I mean, hey, that might work. By fading out the clip, you're fading out anything that feeds into those effects, but there might be residual feedback in those effects. Specifically with the phaser, there is a feedback knob, and with delay, there's feedback. The delay is a prime example, because delay is meant to, you know, extend on the sound after it stops, right? It's supposed to repeat it. Similar things are happening here because you're feeding back it into the phaser, but it's not as much a time-based thing, but you could hear some overlap. You could hear some messiness around the edges, I guess you could say. So I'm just making sure that it gets out of the way by cutting it off with a utility. I just have to make sure, though, to remember to bring it back in if I use it later. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now so that we have it set up. Good. Great. So now you needn't worry about that getting in the way. So let's set that back to read. I'm thinking of ways I could increase the amount, or increase the presence of that guitar there. Maybe I will just take out the tremolo entirely there. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll take out the tremolo entirely, so we just get... Yeah. Okay, that's one way. Another way is to increase the decapitator... Perhaps our compressor, the compressor settings. We could do it that way. Nah. Ooh, I could turn punish on. Perfect. Yeah. I'll do that. Okay, punish. Okay, on. We'll turn it off for that interim section. So punish, all it's doing is it's just taking that distortion and factoring it by like 10. So that should sound cool in context. It doesn't really sound that great on its own. Also, one more thing I want to make sure that I'm doing is I want to have the compressor after the decapitator, so that I'm getting the full sound of that distortion everywhere. And that might alter the sound here too. Yeah, it definitely did. Oh, let's go all the way wet. Or maybe not. Eh. On second thought, maybe not. Perhaps we could achieve this variation a different way. Yeah, that kind of makes it too rough. Yeah, that'll be nicer. Okay, let's bring up the base. Let's do some more stuff to it as well. Okay. Let's see. I've already got a compressor on it. I want to add some sort of distortion. Oh. Darn, I thought that trash would be in here. Okay. Anyways. There is a plugin I really want to use, but it's not here. That's fine. I can use Sound Toys. We'll go for little radiator. Put that before the compressor. Ooh, that was a mistake. It adds this noise. Okay, let's start work on getting out of our drop. Sounds great, but we need to end it somehow. First thing I'm going to do is this plugin I just added onto our slice bass track adds quite a bit of noise, background noise. You might be able to hear it, might not, but it's adding some noise. So what we're going to do is decrease the mix so that the noise goes away in the spaces where there are not bass. So little radiator. We want mix, or perhaps we want bypass. So we can turn bypass off, or bypass, yeah, bypass on, and then we'll turn bypass off when we reach the drop section. So right there. Make sure that it turns on right before it reaches this base, and then turns off immediately afterwards. Great, same thing here. We want this to turn on precisely when the bass starts, and when the bass stops, we want to turn it off. Oh, whoops. I did the... Oh, no. That's right. That's right. It's opposite what you think. When it bypasses on, the effect is off. Yeah, I think this is a beat early, or a beat late. Am I getting some sidechain happening here? Yeah, I am. It might be too subtle, though. Let's put it with the beat. Yeah, it's definitely going to need more compression than that. What is it sending to? It's sending to soft sidechain. See, here's the problem. I want to send the sliced bass track itself is sending to. Well, actually, maybe using the harder sidechain on this would help us out anyways. So let's try that. We'll send it to bus 6 instead of bus 7. Yeah, that is extremely harsh. What I'd like to do is I would like to send this second half sliced bass to bus 7 and this first, or bus 6, because it sounds like this otherwise. And that's super cool for that section, but for this, might be a little much. So what I'm going to do is actually take a duplicate of this entire sliced bass group. Sliced bass, harsh, harsh, bass, harsh, SC. Cool. Okay, and that didn't copy any of the clips. Perfect. All I need is sliced bass A. Okay, and then I can take this and move it down to there. Everything's still on it, right? We got all our all of our effects. Is the automation happening? Are we getting automation? No. Okay, well, we'll just have to make sure to turn little radiator on when we get to this point. So bypass on until we get to here. Turn that there. We go back here, we should hear no noise. Perfect. Here we should hear noise. Perfect. Okay. So that's one section, and then this section is going to bus 7. The light sidechain. I might even fine-tune this a little more. I'm gonna try different modes. That one seems to actually work pretty well. Yeah, I'll stick with that. Yeah. And remember, I can always go up to my sidechain source track and adjust that as well, because what's causing this compressor to pump is this track right up here, this sidechain source. It's not the kick, which you might think is doing. You might think that the kick is the source for this compressor's sidechain, but you'll see here that the sidechain is sidechain source. I could have set it to the kick track, deep kick or harsh kick, but we wouldn't get a clean curve. And I talked a lot about this, not a lot, I talked somewhat about this yesterday when we were first looking at Logic's compressor and its sidechain capability. We want the cleanest curve possible. And there are some other software filters that make cleaner curves than this, but we've experimented and we found something that works for us. But as I was saying, what we could do to adjust the curve even further is we could adjust the source. If we were to listen to the source by using the filter listen, we can hear. Well, we can even mute this, but we can hear in the sliced bass group that source. It's just white noise. But I can always go in and make that white noise hit a little longer. Let's do it for just this section. How about? We can go in, make these noise hits last for a little bit longer, and now sounds like this. But what is that? But more importantly, what does that do to our curve? So let's take another look. You can see it lasts a little bit longer. Let me adjust the notes and you can see them. You can see the curve change. Maybe I'm using the wrong... One sec. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Well, let me just extend them all the way out. How about that? And now look at the curve of the compressor. It's not even getting a chance to go back up. So we can sort of start here, and then we can fine-tune it back until we get a nice shape that we want. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's make a loop here. We can play around. See what will give us the best curve here. Let's try that. Oops. I'm only adjusting the first one. No wonder the curves weren't changing. Yeah. I'm going to make the fact that that chord comes in a little bit more obvious. How would I do that? Okay, transition out. So let's do that really quick. We need to go up to the top. All we've got so far is this sound. We need this, and we need this. Okay. What's the process of this just jumping right back in? Perhaps a filter back in would help out with this. Bring up our automation. You want to start down here, filter it back in over the course of 2 measures. Like that. Okay, something else is these are off, right? These are off. Okay. Let's take a look at these pads. Okay, first of all, it's all filtered, so no. No. That shouldn't be the case. How long has this been filtered for? That might explain a lot. Oh. Well then. Yeah. Is filtered down that far? We don't need it that far. Let's go to like 60% instead of 40%. And of course we gotta come back up here as well. So let's do that then. Up we go. And then we, of course, filter it back down for this. Oh, wait. Filter needs to be all the way up. Going down. This is yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm gonna turn these both down. They're a little too harsh. I'm happy the filter motion got saved. But it needs a little bit more pumping. I think this is going to go to the harsh sidechain instead. So we'll do the same deal where we took the bass and put it in its own group and then filtered that one separately. I'm going to do something similar where I take all of the wow pads, all of these, I'm going to separate them out into their own group. So we'll create a new track stack. We could probably do a stack inside a stack, right? Oh, no, we can't. Okay, so I'll have to drag all these out. Drag all these out of the track stack. Hopefully I can do it. Interesting. Doesn't let me do it. Okay, maybe I have to drag it above. I want these to be out of the chord group. There we go. And now I want them to create their own track stack. Create track stack. Create. This is going to be chords wow. And this is going to be chords plastic. And then I'm going to put the plastic above there so that it's still sort of organized the same way. This is muted. Should it be muted? No. Now, one thing we need to make sure we do is get it to the same volume level as this. So that's about minus 11.8 dB. We want this to be the same. What effects did we have on chords? Plastic, just an EQ, auto filter, compressor. We'll put those things on here too. So I guess I'll just go ahead and do a copy of all of them. So Option drag, channel EQ, and I'm going to leave out the filter. And then, finally, we're going to send it to harsh sidechain instead of soft sidechain, and we'll hear a dramatic difference. Okay, let's hear with everything now. Guitar might be helpful to bring up. Where is guitar? Here it is. Turn that down a little bit. I think that this Plasticraft 2 is way too loud. Terrible. So adjust the EQ. Get this in. Whoops. There. Cut out the lows. Okay, that's just our chords. An arpeggio there would be nice too. Could be something we do next time. Add an arpeggio in at this last drop section, maybe for the second half of it. Could be a good idea. And I'll work on a better outro for it. Yeah. I will work on a better outro for it. Because right now it's just kind of like all the way up, and it has no way of easing out of it like this first drop does. In fact, this first drop doesn't have much ways of easing out of it other than the transition effects at the end, or the transition sounds at the end. So I might work on something like maybe putting some filters on the drums, or using some reverb to kind of wash out the preciseness of the rhythm. And that might be something we could do actually now because, well, we have those reverbs and we have the automation there. So we can just kind of wash this guy out towards the end. Of course, bring it back down, right, to be ready for the next section. And then the same thing here. We can wash this guy out. We can put the reverb up on this. So that will sort of... do that, right? We could even put something on the entire drums itself. Like, I could do... Ooh. Remix effects. Well, let's try... Oh, look at this! You know what this is? I know exactly what this is. This is the effect module that's on the iPad version of GarageBand. When you click on effects, you click on the purple little effects button, this is what you get. This is it right here. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's gonna be super useful because all I gotta do is just let's solo the drums. Oh, that's easy. That makes the transitions just like... There's many ways I can do that. Huh. Other options too. Let's try orbit. Ooh. How about in context with other stuff now? Okay, so I will be certain to use the remix effects on the drum tracks to make transitions super easy. This is a new thing. This is a new thing. So I was so surprised from it. So they just looks like they added the thing from GarageBand right in. And perhaps they even enhanced it a little bit. But I assume this is for if you're importing a track from GarageBand into Logic and you're using the effects module in it. I assume this is for then keeping that effect module or keeping that effect on there that you put on in GarageBand. I'll quickly show you what I'm talking about here. So if we open up GarageBand, whoa. Open up GarageBand here, and we tap the. I could plug this in, but nah, just a small thing. Can you see this well? Let's see if I can kind of get it right there. Okay, awesome. So if I were to tap on the effects little button here, you see the same interface here. You get your filter on the left. It looks like you get repeater and filter. And in software, or on Logic, we have the same deal here. We have the exact same effect module. Alright, so I'll kind of just leave that there. And we'll look at something else now. Let's look at the chords some more. These come. Oh gosh. I sneezed before I could warn you that I was gonna sneeze. Sneeze mid-morning. Oh my goodness. Oh. Let's filter it in. I'll put a filter on just so that we can get this out of the way for this section here. So we'll turn down the cutoff. Alright, this is currently a high pass filter. Let's do it about there, and then we'll bring it in with some automation as we have done already. So auto filter, let's select the cutoff and create a little filter sweep there to bring us in. And of course it sweeps up itself at the end. But you already got so much going on here that it's like no reason to have this guy all the way in. Perhaps we could start it down at a lower cutoff level and maybe and maybe bring it down to 0, so it is in for a little bit, but then it sweeps out. Oops. I'm trying to avoid having any of these clips be static for too long, meaning like just the same thing over and over. So that's why I'm doing a whole lot with drawing in this automation and drawing in these lines, because I want change over time. I want smooth transitions, and I want variation. So I'm trying to vary this chords wow group, this pat filter, by moving a cutoff around. And maybe for the first section we'll have some of those low frequencies cut out. And then following that, leading into 41, we kind of bring it down a little bit so that it's more present. Bring it slowly down, and we sweep it back up towards the end. So let's hear that. So you can hear that it's a little bit scooped. I'll skip here. You can start to slowly hear some of those frequencies come back. And then in the mix of plastic craft chords, bring that down. And then when this one goes lower, this one grows as well, so that the low pass will the low pass cutoff will increase while the high pass cutoff decreases. So we get just a change in timbre. So it kind of morphs from being more so the wow pad to more so the plastic craft. And this is going to slowly come up over time, and then it's going to sweep right out. But it's going to come back up afterwards because there's still some stuff here. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. We don't want this. What if I move this guitar slices back a touch? I've already done quite a bit of this in Soundtrap, but maybe if I... I'm going to create a duplicate of this track. Only this one track. How do I want to do this? I'm going to make a split. I want this guitar slices to be sent through the harsh sidechain instead of the soft sidechain. But not for all of the sections, just these two sections. So let's create a duplicate, and we will move these down. And the thing about this is we can then take this, even though it's part of the group, and even though I can say, you could still send it somewhere else though. So we'll send it to bus 6. It's still inside this group, but it's not actually part of the group now. It's sending to bus 6 rather than bus 3, which is fine. So bus 3, let's see if it has some effects on it. It does. Maybe I want to avoid that then. So perhaps we do bus 3 and we're going to have to create a whole new group for this, aren't we? Or we just try sending guitar slices to bus 6 instead of 7. But that's going to send everything. That might not be desirable. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure what I want to do here because I don't want to make a complete copy of all of the effects on this track. Perhaps. What we can do is send this track to send all of this to bus 7. But then I could actually go to bus 7 itself. This is going to be kind of a tricky thing because bus 7 doesn't actually exist on our timeline here. So how are we going to add automation to it? I want to add automation to this harsh sidechain so that the threshold increases or decreases, so we can get a more or less steep curve here. Because I want the harsh sidechain sound, but I don't want it to be so harsh all the time. But then you might be asking, how in the world would I automate this? Well, simple. Just say touch, and as soon as you change the automation mode, a track becomes available. So that would be harsh SC. Where in the world is that? There it is. That appeared inside the group. We'll go ahead and take it up to the top because that's where our sidechain source is, and it makes sense to have the harsh sidechain parameters above that. So next, let's go to our compressor and our what should we automate? The threshold? Yes. Okay. So starts out at 47, or minus 47. Where does the harsh sidechain actually start to take effect on things? I think it takes effect on the sliced base, or is that bus 7? Okay. So it's got to be 100% in by the time the base gets there. So we'll go ahead and bring up the threshold elsewhere, or bring down the threshold to maybe like something more reasonable, like minus 20. That way we'd get less of a curve, but we still get a curve. So we can just go ahead and listen to what's going on here. And just adjust the threshold until we get a nice dialed-in sidechain effect. Alright, the guitar might be way too loud now. In fact, I know it's way too loud. And now there's no point in making this extra track because I had solved the problem at the group level. So I can just go ahead and move these back up and get rid of this extra track. Okay. I'm going to try Punish again. It sounds better now. Gotta have the transition sounds there. So they are over here on top. Let me get rid of the automation so I can see the clips more clearly. So that's going to transition there. And oops, I didn't want to just move them. I wanted to copy them. Okay, there we go. And all that's going to come forward as well. I'll take the bass drop slam. Let's see. How. All right, that's fine. That's fine. What I'd like to do with this arpeggio is I'd like to delay it out. So I'd like to do some automation with a delay. So let's choose one. Maybe not. Maybe we choose to do it on a bus. Let's throw it right on. Okay, delay. We can use a dry wet mix. Delay designer, echo. Let's just choose something simple. Tape delay. Okay. And let's choose a preset here. Quarter note flutter. Sounds good to me. Sounds cool, but it kind of obscures the melody. So let's try an eighth note dotted. Nice. Okay. And you know we're going to want to automate the dry and wet mix of this delay. So let's create lanes for them. So dry is going to exist there. And then we want wet. Okay, let's grab that one as well. And then all we need to do is choose, or is create the automation lanes for them. So we have dry, we have wet, and we have pan. We'll do something with pan as well because it's in theme to do so. We'll start at the left. Slowly pan towards the center. And then pan our way out. We'll start at 0% wet. Quickly bring it up though, and quickly bring down the dry. The theme of this part is going to be a delayed version of that arpeggio earlier, and we might use this effect subtly in the previous section, but I kind of want it to mostly be dry there. Time. Ooh, we are going over quite a lot here. We'll stop at 2 today. I'm in a groove, you know. I'm gonna flow, and I'd rather not stop now, you know. I think the sidechain level has to be brought. Oh, it is already. Okay, the decapitator punish might not be the best thing to have on here. Let's make the sidechain source longer notes here. See if that makes a difference. It might make a negative difference. But remember, because that's going to affect everything else as well. So let's hear it. Change our mind. We're going to do shorter notes instead. Trying to find the sweet spot here. Yeah, I'm just throwing on a compressor onto the guitar slices track before it reaches the sidechain compressor, just to even out the volume into the radiator a little bit. I think the problem here with this harsh sidechain track. Oh wait, there's already a compressor on there. All right, we'll turn that one off. Change my mind on that one. And then transition effects at the end. I need to mute the bass track here because of the noise. So bypass on at the very end, like so. Beautiful. And then we want the sliced bass track to perhaps filter out. So we will do that as well. So we want a filter here. So filter, auto filter. Great. And that's what we want. And then we want to go through here, auto filter, cut off 100% down to 0%. And then finally, we will add in the sound effects. So this one, that one, and that one. All 5 of these. And we'll copy paste, boop, and put that there at the very end of the measure. Need to make sure it lines up exactly. Perfect. The drums, I'm going to do something with that remix effects to bring it out. So like... affects the cymbal as well. So maybe I want to take the cymbal out of the drum group because that's going to... If the drum group's going to be affected by this remix effects, that's going to obscure the crash sound. So let's see about... What is this? This is going... I don't think it will hurt too much to move fill, panning, clicks, and crash to transition effects. That way, it's separate from the little remix unit that I'm using to add some drum effects, drum transition effects. Let's just quickly test the balance of things, though, since I moved them out. Let's try it other places too. Another thing I'd like to do is throw this through a soft sidechain so that even the transition effects are pumping a little bit. Like that. Ah, yes, this is delaying. It shouldn't be delaying here. At least not right away. So let's start it at 100% wet. I mean 100% dry, 0% wet. And we will, in the interim, like right about in the middle, we'll start to bring up that wet part of the delay, and we'll bring down the dry. And the dry will start to come back. Right about here. So this will continually increase, and then it will rapidly lose that delay signal. It'll come back up to 100%, and it will be let out like that. So let's try that. Better. Now the guitars sound different. That's about good. That level of distortion there. Let's hear it in the second section now. Let's make the bass filter out for that transition, for this part. Let's make the filter go down there. It's on this track. So it'll go down for a sec, and then it'll sweep back up. So it'll be like this. And other stuff can happen too, like the tremolo depth can go up here. Ooh, that actually sounds quite fancy to have everywhere. I'll just bring up the tremolo depth everywhere. Why not? Maybe down in places, so it'll be like tremolo, and then for those on measure 4, we'll have it not tremolo, and then go right back to being modulated by the tremolo. So it'll be shaky. Listen to this. And then neutral. I'm going to make it fade out there, and then go right back into being tremoloed. Okay. Could do the same thing with the filter. So we'll bring it down and then bring it back up for this part, and then here we'll bring the filter down and then back right up to match this sort of motion. Okay. So how does that feel? Something has to happen with the drums too. Of course. The noise is from one of the plugins I'm using. It's that track right there. It's fine. It's just a preamp plugin right here. This is what's making the noise. But it's also making the bass super thick, so we compromise. We'll make a little compromise. Yeah. We'll deal with it. It's fine. It's fine. Also, I didn't mean to make that little point there at the beginning. Okay. So, we are getting very, very close here to time. I said I would stop here at 2 today. Usually I stop quite a bit earlier, but I was getting in the groove today, so I'm going to cut myself off now. But beforehand, we're going to play through this whole thing here and take a listen to what we have so far and make some plans for tomorrow. It seems like every time I play the guitar from the beginning, it just sounds different. I keep messing with parameters. Tremolo depth, that's fine. Decapitator punish, that's also fine. Could it be that the volume is automated by perhaps? No, it's not. It's not volume. It's not automated. Maybe I do the utility trick with this one, where I started out at a lower gain, and then I fade it in. So gain, we'll start it at minus 11 dB, and then we'll fade it up to 0. Yeah, that should do it. And then it starts to fade in. Gonna capture that stuff I did with the remix effects. Just gonna make sure that it's all there. Okay, automation, remix effects. Hopefully it captured it. Nah. Okay, I'll have to do that again. That's alright. That's alright. I should have pressed record to begin with. Yeah, but I'll do something with those effects later on. I'm not sure exactly what the what order I'd like to do it in. But yeah, that is about all I'm gonna do for today. Quite busy. A lot of changes. A lot of automation done. A lot of filters added. A lot of plugins stacked on top. A lot of little parameters changed here and there. Lots of tweaking today. Lots of changing and getting things just right to fit in the mix just right. So I apologize if there wasn't as much explanation as you might have hoped for this to be, but I intend this to be educational in that you can watch and become inspired by this process. At least that's what it is for now. I'm really trying to power through this track and show you guys the process, like the high level process of mixing down a track. But sooner or later we will go back. I think perhaps later this week, hopefully later this week, we'll come back to Soundtrap and we'll do some more basic tutorial-esque things. Somewhat review, somewhat not, but getting into the whole collaboration thing. The whole collaboration instead of just me, right? That would be cool. I think that would be cool. So on that note, I hope that those of you who have stuck around in the chat and have popped in and stuck around for a little bit, I hope you enjoyed your time. And I definitely enjoyed mine because I went way over today. But yeah, definitely ask questions, I'm assuming I've got to check and see if there's comments in the previous streams so that I can go in through and answer questions. But if you're here, if you're in the stream, if you're watching, feel free to chat at me and I can stop what I'm doing and answer a question because that's what I'm here for. I intend to be a teacher. Yes, I'm talking over here. My screen, the control, my live stream stuff is over there. So I'm doing like this. Whatever. This is wrong, of course. It always is. It's meant to be tomorrow. I'm just gonna make it official. Thursday, 11:30. We will get started again tomorrow on this same topic. And I'll try to go a little bit slower tomorrow. Try to be more methodical about things and jump around a lot less. I'm suspect of that. That's just how I am. That's how I work. I jump around. So if you're curious about anything that I'm doing, please stop me and ask me a question. But until next time,